Hello, my name is George M. Atkinson. I'm the writer and director of Grace, a film about the small choices in our lives and how they can have big repercussions. I'll just be honest, the inspiration of the project was, how do we make a short film with no money? I thought of it in film school. There were a few things that sort of came about. My mum at the time was not the healthiest soul in the world, and because she had anxiety, deep anxiety, it would mean that me and my dad, we couldn't leave her. We couldn't go out and do her own thing or anything like that. She just couldn't be left. Bless her. She's actually really improved now. She's, that has changed, but for about 3 years, that was the case. And I just had always wondered about the other side of people who live with either, striking disability or real health problems. We always hear about them and their story, but what about the story of the person who's looking after them and taking care of them? And I felt as though that hadn't been fully explored, and so I wrote a script in film school. In the end, I didn't pitch it, I pitched something else, and I think that part of me was reluctant to pitch this because I think I was about 23, 24, and part of me was afraid that I wasn't ready to make a film of that level with such a mature and sensitive subject matter. I didn't think as though I was worldly wise enough to do something like that. So in that sense, the project took years to develop, but it was not really like that. I had the initial idea in 2015, I think, and I shelved it, and then when I decided I really wanted to make a professional short film and something that was good and that could showcase what we could do, then Grace was the obvious choice. So in the end, we decided in 2020 we're going to do it, and so we started casting, and that was an incredible process. 600 women applied on Mandy.com for the role of Grace, and that taught me a lot about just the acting pool in the UK and how difficult and how challenging it is. It made me realise that, I was nobody. I'm still relatively nobody, to be honest with you. And we're doing another film, and that will hopefully, take off a little bit more than Grace. But in the scheme of things, we were nobody. We were no production. The money was, baseline, just above baseline. And so we had no prior accolades or awards or even been in a film festival, but 600 women applied. And so that made me realise there's a ton of talent out there that's not being used, and there's a ton of talent out there that must be very frustrated and very it must be very difficult when they're applying to somebody like me, for work. And so the talent that we got and the auditions were probably one of the hardest sections of creating the film, because there's a lot of incredible, great actors and actresses out there. And so we realised that we could audition Grace, we could audition Jake. Those were the people who that's the role that got a lot of attention. Paul only got 2 people. The disabled chap only got 2 people, and thank God the first person was Dan Wrigley, who absolutely knocked it out of the park. And I'd never really seen anything like it before or since. He just did it, and it was absolutely perfect. He's not actually disabled, but he told a story with his face, with his mannerisms. It was heartbreaking, and in the film he just is incredible. So I realised that auditioning Jake and auditioning Grace individually was half the situation, but the second situation, the real teller of this story, we had to audition them in couples. And they don't mind me saying this, I've said this many times in different interviews and openly, Garth and Ruth were not who I had in mind when the individual auditions happened. They were great, and they got the second audition, but they weren't how I envisioned them. But when they sat down together and they did the scene and they read the part, and especially the bedroom scene together, it was electric. It was absolutely magical, and the chemistry that they had was so believable and so real. After that we had about 3 or 4 other auditions, and they were all great. but me and the cinematographer Rick just couldn't stop thinking about Garth and Ruth, and they got it. Getting financing was me. I had a YouTube channel at the time, and I'd done some little bits of work here and there, and I just scuppered together about $3,000, and we just went and shot it, which was, in hindsight, a very foolish thing to do. But I just wanted to make a film. I was desperate. It was a monkey on my back. I had to get this out and just get it done. We ran into tons of challenges because we were essentially still shooting in lockdown, in COVID lockdown. The location that we got, we were only allowed for a day, so we had to shoot 17 pages in a day, which was, well, I learnt a lot from doing that, and my biggest advice is don't shoot 17 pages in a day. It's not worth it. And there were a few creaks, and there were a few problems that we had to really, really try and patch up, and we did to an adequate degree, but not fully. Another thing is we weren't allowed to see the location until essentially the day before shooting. So I think that we had less than 48 hours in that space. In fact, just over 24 hours. I think we had 30 hours in total at that space. Rick had to come, Gwyn had to just come and look at the space and just decide. And the photos that were on the website, because it was like an Airbnb, they weren't very accurate to what we thought when we got in, and we thought, oh, this isn't what we thought it was going to be and what we imagined. So we had to make do with a lot of things. And I think that all things considered, we did pretty well, considering that we had essentially no time, and we just had to sort of make it up and just try to stick to the script and stick to the strength of the story and the strength of the acting. And that was the focus throughout the day. We submitted to quite a few festivals, and I'm not ashamed to say that the really, really big ones like TIFF and Tribeca and Sundance and all that just said no, thank you, but no. And so I didn't feel disheartened. I thought, this is the first big film that I've done, first big short film that I've done. Then I won for Best First Time Director at the European Cinematography Awards and Canadian Cinematography Awards. And I thought, okay, well, I've done something right. For a first film, it's pretty good. We didn't even look at Z Shorts. Z Shorts came to us and they said, do you want to submit? I was stunned. And that on Film Freeway, that doesn't mean anything, by the way. When you get asked to submit, that still doesn't guarantee anything. And I knew that Z Shorts had a pretty good reputation in California, and they're one of the newer film festivals, but they've made a splash already, and they're highly acclaimed. And again, we didn't even touch them. I just thought, no, there's no way that Z Shorts are going to say yes. And then they approached us, and they approached me, and I went, okay, go for it. And then it wasn't an official selection; it was an honourable mention, but I'm still really proud of that. I still think that that's quite amazing. It's not a perfect film. There are some production problems, there are some production issues, but there's a real heart to it. The story, I think, is great. I think that I did write a good script, and I thought that the acting was out of this world. We got better actors than we had any right to, and I think that I learnt a lot from them, and that they were a humbling presence on that day when we shot it. Production, we had limited resources, but we pulled together. So I'm very proud of it, and I'm ecstatic that Z Shorts said yes. And thank you to Mike. I really, really do appreciate it. Once Grace has done its festival run, you can watch it. All you have to do is go onto Facebook, like Effortless Pictures, or like Grace 2021 Film, or you can follow us on effortlesspictures.co.uk. Thank you so much to Z Shorts, thank you so much to Mike, and I hope that you do enjoy my film, Grace.